Good morning, class. How have you been? I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you guys are keeping safe. In the last couple of classes, we have been discussing the idea of Orientalism, which was proposed by Edward Said, and we saw how the Orient or the native lands were misrepresented by the Occident, the imperialist forces. So, for the imperialist forces or the Westerners, the native lands, the Asia and Middle East were actually the Orient or the other. So there is another significant thought that comes there, which is called Eurocentrism. That is, thinking that Europe is the center of all kinds of cultural, scientific, and trade progress, that no other lands equate with Europe in terms of cultural sophistication and progress and scientific progress. So this kind of Eurocentric attitude that Europe and all the discourses associated with Europe and are superior to all other communities in the world. This Eurocentrism is what makes something like Orientalism possible. So when the European actually looks at the Orient or their other from this Eurocentric perspective, they see only the certain aspects of those societies. These societies may have attained a lot of cultural progress. For instance, India was a very strong presence in the trade market globally, and even the Middle East was very strong in the trade matters. But when the Occident represents the Orient, what happens is they represent the Orient as very uncouth and pagan and exotic. There are dancing women and monsters and superstitions, snake charmers. This is the kind of representation. If you see many Disney movies also, this kind of representation of the Orient can be seen earlier. Now they're correcting it, but Aladdin and all, it was there earlier. So this kind of misrepresentation is what Edward Said discusses through the concept of Orientalism. That is, Eurocentric view is imposed on the natives, and they are represented as very uncouth and pagan, and their ways are represented as very inferior. This kind of representation later on becomes universalized through consistent articulation. That is, when people tell you something, keep on telling you something, what happens is you tend to think that, oh, is this the way? So this kind of a stereotype of the native is made. Even now, these kinds of stereotypes about people from the Middle East, about people from Asia continue, that they are people of this kind and they do not have any other kind of progress. These kinds of stereotypes continue even today. So this is what is meant by Orientalism. We also saw a concept which is Eurocentrism. So then we'll move on to some other significant concepts. Probably we will think about the concept of decolonization. That is, when the colonial forces enter land and they start colonizing, they do not just colonize the administration and the people through some kind of administrative system there, but rather they colonize their minds also. They start indoctrinating the natives. They start teaching the natives that the imperialist culture is more superior, and it is through this kind of mental indoctrination that the imperial forces actually conquer the natives more than physical force or any other administrative force. So what happens is the mind of the native is actually deeply influenced by the imperialist forces. They start thinking that these are the ways which are proper. These are the our ways are not right. Our ways are uncouth and pagan. So this thought goes on, but with the Western education itself, they do learn many things like rational thought and all. It was already there in many cultures, rational thought, especially in Indian culture, the debating culture was there. So some intellectuals with who think about all these things actually realize that the minds are being colonized, that these ideas that are being fed into our minds are actually a way of conquering ourselves, conquering our identities and culture. So then they understand the need to decolonize their minds. That is, they understand the need to question all these ideas which have been imposed by the imperialist forces. All these notions of identity that have been enforced upon me by the Westerner. They need to be questioned. So this questioning and understanding that these are the elements that I need not take and I should let go from the Western culture or the Western imposition. And probably you must have seen some writers deciding to quit writing in the English language. Some writers, some thinkers deciding that certain beliefs that they received from the imperialist forces, they are going to let go of it. So on a similar line, this process of freeing the mind from those colonial biases is called decolonization. We'll think of some other concepts also. Some major thinkers like Gayatri Spivak. Gayatri Spivak's major concept was the empire rights back. That is, the imperialist forces kept on writing about the natives in a particular way, misrepresenting the natives in a particular way, which the natives also started believing. And this kind of representation actually became a tool of domination. But later on, with the help of education and rational thought, the natives understand that this is misrepresentation. The history of the natives, the identity of the native, the culture of the natives have been misrepresented by the imperialist forces. And then they start writing back, at times in the same language, at times in the native's language, that no, this is not our identity, this is represented and mediated identity by the imperialist forces, and this is our identity. We are reclaiming and reaffirming our native identity through our writing. So this kind of resistance to colonial narratives is called the empire writing back. That is Gayatri Spivak. You can find many ideas about Gayatri Spivak. And there is Homi K. Bhabha. Many concepts are there by Homi K. Bhabha. Mimicry is there. A very significant concept is mimicry. That is when the imperialist forces conquer native lands and narrate themselves as superior, the natives actually start believing that, and they think that their ways of life are quite admirable. So they start imitating it. So they start adopting things from the Western ideas and implementing it in their own lives, incorporating it with their own cultural views. It's called mimicry. Mimicry is a part of the colonial process. And then what are the other concepts? Then hybridity is another significant concept proposed by Homi K. Bhabha. That is, this is actually a conglomeration of cultures. While the imperialist forces come and the native cultures come in conflict, there is actually now we must have seen we are actually a hybrid community. All the ideas that the Westerners brought along and the native ideas that we have had, we Indians are a very hybrid community now, because we are a mixture of both cultures. So in most of the lands which were conquered by imperialist forces, this kind of hybrid culture has been made possible. That is, the values and systems of the colonizer and the colonized merge together, and the syncretic. It can also be called syncretism or hybridity. So it's a mix of all those values and cultures. Hybridity and ambivalence. That is, there is a confusion regarding what actually constitutes my identity. Is it in contrast with the Western identity, that my identity is determined, or is it my native identity? Are my beliefs right or their beliefs right? So this ambivalence is another significant concept which was discussed by Homi K. Bhabha. And then there is Benedict Anderson, who's a very significant figure, who talks to us about imagined communities. That is, there is something called nationalism. In the context of the colonizer, nationalism, in the context of probably the Britishers, there was a nationalist feeling that was actually driving them. That is, we are a nation and we have developed so much progress. These kinds of narratives create a nationalist feeling in them, even though the communities in Britain are very diverse and they need not share a singular kind of culture. They're a mix of cultures. There is a unifying nationalist thought The idea of Benedict Anderson is that the people of many nations, they have never seen each other. They may have never come face to face, but they believe that they belong to a nation, and this belief is becomes a very strong narrative. That when I say that I am an Indian, and or the identity of the Indian is associated with me, I am associating myself with billions of people whom I would never see. So this is actually, according to Anderson, an imagined community, but this imagined community has much scope. That is, in the case of the Britishers, this nationalist feeling actually helped them conquer many lands, but in the case of the natives, it was the same nationalist feeling that helped them resist the colonialist, colonial intrusion. That is, take the case of India itself. India was actually a mix of cultures. There was no unifying culture as such, but what happened is, when the imperialist forces came in and resistance was needed, for the cause of the resistance, all these cultures combined together, and there was this national identity which was being acknowledged then, and especially with the help of the Indian National Congress and all that kind of a representation, that we belong to a nation and we should be fighting back the empire together. Despite all these cultural differences, we are a nation. That narrative of the nation even holds on today. It has much strength and hold in even our personal lives at this point, that we believe that we are Indians and we belong to a nation. So this is another concept by Benedict Anderson, nation, imagined communities. But nationality is actually a very significant cultural force now. That is, the way in which people's identities are determined, the way in which people's even everyday life is determined. The concept of nationality plays a very significant role. So these are some concepts that I thought I would introduce to you today. There must be some more concepts which we'll be discussing in the coming classes, and then we have an essay to discuss also. I hope these concepts are clear. If you have any doubts or queries, you can post them in the Google Classroom comments. I hope you guys are doing well. I know that these online classes might be taking a toll on your eyes and ears, and it may not be as interesting as how offline classes used to be, but we'll hold on. Let's hope that we'll resume proper classes soon. The pandemic will somehow end soon. So till then, stay safe, take all the necessary precautions, and cooperate with us teachers, and try to listen to us. We are also struggling to make content interesting to you. Okay, so I'll conclude for the time being. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and stay happy. Try to stay happy and positive.